Welcome to this episode of the SheBreathes Soul Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jen Gallbrand, and as our listeners know, I passionately believe in the profound impact of storytelling and this idea of sharing our personal narratives. Because when we find the courage to move beyond our fears and our limiting beliefs and really show up as raw and real, and we share our untold stories, we begin to foster these waves of compassion and connection and community, all things that we need more of in the world today. So I'm delighted to have my friend Soni Masur here today. Soni is the owner and president of Soni Masur Jewelry and Reiki, and more recently, the founder and visionary behind the Zenathon, which we're going to learn all about today. Welcome to the show, Soni.
So
How are
excited to be here with you, Jen. I've been looking forward to this.
I know, it's so great. It's so great. We've known each other for gosh, since probably 2016, I'm thinking, when I first
Yep.
opened the first studio. And look, and I'm even wearing a ring that I bought from Soni all those years ago. So we have this great energy, and we are really excited to talk today about Soni's journey. So let's start there, and I'm going to invite you to share a personal story with our listeners today.
Thanks, Jen. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go all the way back because I think people
Yes.
see me as very energy based and very at ease in this space. And the truth is, it wasn't really all that long ago that I had no idea about the energy world and connecting with chakras and all of the healing components that are with that. Now, I did start out as an artist and making jewelry with crystals. So I've always been working with gemstones, but truthfully, I didn't know all the healing components that
Mm.
I was working with. And once that portal opened, it was like whoosh, an
Right?
unbelievable entrance into a whole world that I have been connected to, but was unconscious. It was not really in my forefront. And so that stepping into the world of frequency, the world of connection, the world of energy has literally blown my life up in the most beautiful,
In good ways. Yes,
right,
in
in the
good
most
ways.
beautiful of ways. Yes.
Yeah.
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 And so when I look back, the first entry in was through crystals, and then I had a medical issue that really sidelined me in life, and I was unable to partake in daily family activities and take care of my kids or myself or my husband. And I
Mm.
was in a tremendous amount of pain for a very long time. And at one point, I was just overwhelmed with this chronic pain. This lasted over a year and a half. And then, yeah, a friend mentioned maybe you should think about acupuncture, which I really had no experience with at all. But I wasn't taking any medication because I don't really, it wasn't helping and I didn't believe in it. And
Right.
so I thought, heck, why not? I'll go try
Yeah.
this acupuncture. And I drove there, and as soon as I got there, I decided it was a bad decision. Now, this is crazy that, I was in excruciating pain and I throw up a
Mm.
lot when I'm in pain and just
Mhm.
was unable to control that. And so I
Yeah.
went in and I said, I'm really sorry. I'm going to pay you for this session and I'm going to leave. She was like, why? And I said, I can't even get into it. I'm in too much pain and I'm probably going to throw up shortly and I'd rather not do it here.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you think you could give me 15 seconds? Like, do you think you could lie down and just start repeating some mantras? And I said, I don't know. Maybe. And she's like, let's try this. And so I said, could you get a throw up? Like, could you get your waste paper basket in case I have to throw up? I was so afraid, right? And
Yeah, of course. Of
right,
course.
we have, so she's like, sure. And I said, you can't leave my side if you're putting needles in me because I'm in so much pain and I don't know how I'm going to react. And what if I have to sit up and the needles go in further? And I was already, when you're in a lot of pain,
Anxious. Yeah.
right, anxious and you don't think straight. And so I lied down and she said, do this breathing with me. And I started following her. And then she started repeating mantras. And I have to tell you, within 15 seconds, the pain
Mhm.
began to dissipate. And
Yeah.
I was in awe. I had been in pain for about 18 months and I didn't get any relief. And now, within a minute, there was no pain.
Right.
And I said, "Can I stay for this session?" And she says, "Of course."
Wow.
And I have to tell you, I had no idea. I didn't understand anything about meridians, anything about energy blockages, anything about chakras. And at the end of the session, I was pain-free.
I love
And I
this.
got up and I hugged her, paid her, and naively walked out without asking any questions and thought I was healed.
Ah, yes.
Got in the
Just
car. Right, go ahead.
no, I was just say just the beginning of the journey.
But I didn't
Yeah.
know, right? When we
Of
step into new,
course.
right, we
Of
step
course.
into these new realms. I thought like the magic wand had happened, and I was like, oh my God, I'm healed.
Yeah.
And I felt like the bionic woman I thought I could lift my car. I thought I could rip the steering wheel off. It was like all this energy was flowing through me that I had never felt before and wasn't even sure like what was going on in my body. And when I got home, I was in the kitchen when my girls came home from school. They were in elementary school and they were shocked to see me in the kitchen because I had not been standing for months and I hadn't been interacting for months. Mom, and I said, I'm back, I'm here, I'm part of the family. And it was a joyous reunion. And then about 4 days later, for the
Yeah.
first time in my life, the pain was here outside my body, and I had never experienced that before. And I
Hmm.
felt it coming closer, and I started to panic.
Yeah.
And I reached out to the acupuncturist and I said, hey, I'm going to be in pain very shortly and I can't do this again. I won't go back. I will not live my life in chronic pain again. Can you see me? And she said, it's Monday. It's my day off. I work Tuesday through Saturday. Can we set up an appointment later this week? And I burst into tears.
Mm.
And I said, I can't do this. And she's like, give me an hour. I'm at the gym. I'll meet you in my office. And that's
Nice.
when my life kind of changed because now, after a minute, I was out of pain again and I could ask questions.
Right. Wow. How many years ago was that? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yes, this was my kids were very young, so probably close to 20, 18 to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. And that led you on this journey to becoming an energy healing facilitator and all the beautiful things that we're going to learn about later in this program. I love that story.
Yeah, thank you. It was
Yeah.
profound, had a profound effect on me,
Mm.
and just kind of tapped into God. I wonder if other people are suffering in similar ways that I have, and if I could help them. Like I wish, it took a long time for me to figure out these pieces. And I initially decided I would learn Reiki because that was also my entry in after all of this.
Right.
Um, if I could help anyone else in my family. That's what I thought. If this happens to anyone else, I didn't want to
Right.
become a practitioner initially. I just wanted to have the ability of anyone in my family this happened to that I could be there for them to help shorten the duration of the pain and the not being part of life. But then, as you know, and anyone who's kind of in the energy field, you get called, you get pulled,
Yes.
just pulled right up. And it was super clear that this couldn't be kept quiet just for family. And,
Right.
for me, it's an honor and a privilege
Mm.
to share, to connect, to cross-pollinate, to help other people meet. I'm a team player. And so when I'm working with someone, I will suggest that they see this practitioner, that they think about pulling this
Oh, yeah.
practitioner in.
Absolutely, because there's so many dimensions to our wounds, our pain, our healing journey. I mean, it'd be great if one of us could do it all. But I think there's just this opportunity to experience so many different practitioners, modalities, and the combination of their energy it just is what makes all the difference in the world. I believe in all of that as well. It's like community over competition because we are here to uplift and raise the vibration. And no one person can do that alone, I'm afraid.
Exactly. And I think
So,
creating is like the best thing when
Yeah.
you're holding hands with, and
Yes.
we each have these different superpowers and different perspectives, and it's beautiful when we bring them all in,
Mm,
and then people get to say, oh, I that resonates with me, or this resonates, oh, I want to work with her or him, and then they build their team to support them so they stay on their path and live the life that they've always wanted
exactly.
to live.
Absolutely. And we all need each other. People who do this work, we need one another because we all need healing too and support and energy, energy uplifting. So how did you get from that sort of aha experience that you had for yourself, your life, your family? What was your journey like from there to here? I'm sure it wasn't one straight path, but share a
Yeah.
little bit about that with us.
Sure, great question. Thank you. Yeah, and so once my pain was no longer part of my life, I was able to think clearly and take the time to ask some questions that I was unable. I think when you're in excruciating pain, it's
Oh yeah.
very hard to quiet and slow down. And so then I just started learning about Reiki, and I went to learn Reiki 1 quietly, didn't tell anybody that I was
Right.
doing this because I was, an artist, which was far enough out, but very mainstream. And I was actually
Mm,
quite worried about what people
of
would think of
course.
me, to be honest. My kids were young. I was the room parent at school, and I wanted
Yeah.
to be that normal person, right? And I would give my kids different rocks for different things in their backpacks. And then I started learning about energy. And after I went through Reiki 1, I actually took a break, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
I was a bit afraid, I'll be honest,
Yeah.
what my family was going to think, what my friends were going to think. And I kind of was, in the closet with all of
Sure.
these energy connections. And I thought, I'm going to take the time off. I took summer off. My teacher wanted me to go right to 2 and 3 and 4. She's like, you really have a lot of, you shouldn't be quiet. Like, let's go. And I was like,
Yeah.
I have to pause. And so I always say when I'm teaching and when I'm with people, listening to our own inner
Yes.
souls is number one. Someone, a
Absolutely.
mentor, a teacher may be there to help you expand, to experience new things. But if it's not the right timing, you have
Right.
to honor yourself. And I was not ready, truthfully. And so I took about 3 to 4 months off, and was summer. So I got a lot of downtime with my kids and just really checked in. And in the fall, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try. I'm only going to try level 2. I wasn't committing. I told her I'm not going to
Yeah.
commit. I'm just going to do one thing. And the truth is, that was such an expansive experience of starting to open up to your own intuition
Yes.
that we all have, that has been somewhat squelched by our society, starting
Somewhat.
right,
Let's get real
reconnect.
here.
Right. Okay, completely squelched. Right, by age 7,
Yeah.
gone. Um,
Exactly.
right. And so, it's not, I don't necessarily, sometimes I do think it's on purpose that people squelch
Yeah.
that, and sometimes it's by accident that
No.
parents, teachers, coaches,
Oh.
siblings, friends, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, this is how we do it. This is what we're doing. Get inside the box.
Yeah.
And so this Reiki blew the box apart so that you connect to the earth, you connect to the universe, you connect to yourself. And we have
Absolutely.
all of these incredible answers and connections. It's kind of like the operator. You just have to learn how to plug in those
Yeah.
tools to open that. And for me, it was very natural because I didn't realize that I had already done all these things that probably lots of us do, but don't realize that if you
Right.
actually dive in a little more, there's more connections. And it's been a wild journey.
Right. The one thing I want to say about that, just as somebody who, teach, train, whatever the word is, Reiki practitioners all the way up to master teacher now, and I encourage people to take several months off after Reiki 1 because, just to your point, everything's opening up. It can be overwhelming. Like all of this intuition and all of these downloads, it can be a little scary for people. And so getting comfortable with that, allowing that integration time, I think is so important between the levels of training, or it will, you know, people might be like, this, so I wasn't ready. So I love that you took time through that journey because I think, I mean, when people ask me to do it back to back, I'm like, no, I think I'd really like you to integrate each level and take the time that you need to become whole with it before you go forward, so I love that you did that. But I mean, so now look at you. So you've done all of this I mean, this was years ago, this journey, and I need you to tell everybody what you're doing now because I'm just so honored to know you and be a part of the Zenathon. So let us share that.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'm so grateful you were part of our very first ever
Yeah,
epic Zenathon. So Zenathon, first, the word itself is a word I made up.
I love
Um,
that.
right? It came from, I have some clients who do triathlons,
Yeah,
and I was helping them with mindset and how to have visualizations of the whole thing, right? And I was thinking, God, would it be great if we had something like this in the spiritual world or really in the average everyday world? Not
yeah,
everybody's going to go do a triathlon, but if we could bring meditation, yoga, and walking to a place, how awesome would that be? And this was right before the pandemic happened. And so I started looking at for locations to do this. And then, of course, in March, um, we heard about COVID and we all thought initially, oh, this is 2 weeks, right? So I was
yeah.
like, it's okay. I can still keep moving forward.
I
And then
know.
we quickly realized it was not 2 weeks
Mm,
and didn't even really know how long it would be, but it allowed time for this to download to kind of expand and continue to marinate and then come down in a place where we landed this past September. And I, like you, are one of these people who knows so many tremendous, amazing teachers, mentors, energy workers, and just people, beautiful
yeah.
souls. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do this Zenathon, why am I limiting it to three people who are going to do
Mhm.
this to teach? I know so many people I want everybody to know about these people. They bring such magic, such energy, such amazing shifts to the world that everybody really needs to know about them. And so I just started reaching out
Wow.
to all of these people sharing about Zenathon, that it would be a day of peace, that this would be a peace buffet, so to speak, where people could just check things out. Maybe they've never done sound bowl healing before. Maybe
Mm,
they've heard about meditation, tried it, and they're like, I'm not a meditator, which people,
right.
right, say this all
Oh,
the
of
time.
course. Of
Like,
course.
we have lots of different ways to meditate. Maybe they always wanted to ask about angels. Maybe they
Mm,
wanted to hear about intuition and how to help themselves get more clear on intuition. Maybe they're super sensitive and need some extra layers to keep them centered and balanced. So I
right.
just started reaching out, and literally we had 38 presenters. I could have had 138 presenters because I know so many amazing people. And we had the marketplace, which you were
Yeah.
a part of, and we had some organic-y kind of food, and it was a full day in Sharon, Mass, that brought more peace to
Mm,
each one of us. And then by the end of the day, we left as beacons of peace or beacons
yes.
of light. And then we bring that out to our homes, to our workspaces, to our towns, to our
I love it.
states, to our world. And ultimately, that is the Zenathon's mission, is to bring more peace from a foundational level and a frequency infusion of peace so that we move out of this crazy fear-based
Oh,
world that we're kind of living in to a more peace-based space so that
yes.
every one of us, people, animals, waterways, trees,
Yeah.
can have more peace in the world.
Oh boy, we sure need more of that right now, don't we? More than
We do.
more than ever. We could have a whole podcast about that. But I think this is really, I love what you're doing. Obviously, I was like, I need to get you on this program so more people can hear about it. And you know, we this concept of it all starts in here as individual people, finding that peace from within, right? We all that just that is step one. if we can help other people and help one another to find that peace from within, it's much easier to connect with other people and to spread that vibrational frequency out into the world. And that's what we're all doing. I think a lot of people, maybe even subconsciously, are doing this work. I mean, not thinking about the bigger impact of it, you know? And so I love that what you did is you brought that to the forefront. This concept of we can all individually come together in this collective shift. And I love it, and I can't wait till next year. And I love the concept because I'm all about building heart-centered communities and supportive spaces. So I'm really excited for you and the journey that you've begun for all of us. So thank you for that.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you. I mean, I'm thrilled. Like last year, you were in the marketplace. This year, I'm hoping that you're going to be a presenter
I would
and in
love
the
that.
marketplace so that you can share all the magic that you bring. Because I really feel that each one of us has such unbelievable, beautiful circles.
Hmm.
And when we bring them together, then more
Yeah,
people are like, whoa, this is in our backyard? I didn't know about
I know.
this.
It's
Right.
amazing.
And Zenathon, even though it only happens in person once a year, this year it'll be September, or next year rather, it'll be September 14th, 2025. We are doing monthly free Zenathon Zooms so
Beautiful.
that people can meet practitioners and kind of just get a little taste of like, well, what is
Mm,
Zenathon like, or what does this person bring to the world? So I want to check out what's breathwork going to
yeah,
be like. We had angels last month and breathwork we have this month. And then next time we're going to have feng shui and how to set your house up so that you can work better in your
love it.
space.
I love it. Those are all important things. They're great. It's great. So kind of back to this concept of storytelling, which is why I invited you on here today. And you shared a very personal story with us, a health journey, and sort of this oh, really awakening to the energy world and to this work that you do now. What inspired you to want to share some of those deeper parts of yourself with our audience today, with our listeners?
I think, as we all know, social media plays this like
Mhm.
beautiful picture of life, which is so not real. And I think we all tend to think, oh my God, she has it so easy, or she's doing this like with no problem.
Yeah,
And that's just not true.
it's
So
not.
the truth is, every single one of us goes through things, and when we share, it allows other people to realize that they too can get through this with community, with holding hands, with doing other things that they didn't realize people were doing. They can do this too. And to know
Absolutely.
that we're all human,
Yeah,
every single one of us. And so I thought, by sharing it, maybe someone else has a dream that they've always wanted to bring forward, and they're like a little worried.
right.
Like, my dream is world peace. Is that a big dream? That's a
I love
freaking,
that. That's
right?
great.
And
There's
go
no
for
dream too big. There's no dream too
it, right?
big.
So go for it. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. And I think, I mean, all of this work that I'm doing, when I wrote my story of things that people were like, whoa, I didn't know those things happened to you. And then I did the collective anthology of She Breathes stories, because here I had 22 women in my community who all thought they knew one another until they started sharing some of these experiences with one another. You just connect at such a more just a deeper level with people, and that is what's going to lead to more individual peace and collective peace, is this idea that we are not alone, that we are all connected, and that we are here to support and uplift each other, instead, because we're so socialized to like separate and compare and compete, when in reality, I mean, that's sort of a male energy thing, right? That's that doing kind of energy. But the more we can kind of lean more into this idea of our feminine, and I don't mean sexual identity, I mean, but our energies, right? More of this idea of collectiveness. We're really designed to be a collective. And I think these kinds of efforts, these kinds of stories, but also the kind of work that you're doing, that we're all doing, is going to lead to more of that. So that's why I don't think world peace is that far away of a dream. I think we
I
just have
love
to,
that.
I know. Let's just do this. But anyway, the point that I was trying to make is it starts with ourselves becoming willing to overcome some of these fears, like the fear of going to that acupuncturist, right?
Right.
The
Right.
fear of being seen in your pain, right? We all have
Yeah.
these narratives, and the baby steps that we can take to move beyond those fears, beyond those limiting beliefs, and to allow ourselves to receive what we need from one another in a vulnerable way. It doesn't mean we're weak. It actually means that we're being very courageous to kind of move, right, move out from behind the curtain and show up authentically. And when we do that, amazing things happen. Amazing things. Telling our stories, sharing our stories, you know, of our pain, but also our triumphs and our transformation through the process. And that's what this whole podcast is about. And I love having people come on the show who I've known for all these years and learning something new about them. I never knew that you had gone through 18 months of debilitating pain. And look where it led you. It led you to do this work and to help other people. And that's why we have to tell our stories.
Jen, I love your passion about the stories because I actually think a lot of people don't tell their stories
They
because they
don't,
are so afraid, right?
of
And
course.
you're creating this space where your story is your like onboarding to freedom.
Yeah,
And by do,
totally.
right? I mean, it kind of opens us
It,
up.
it's so liberating, right?
And you don't think that because you're like, you actually want to keep it
Exactly.
tight. And
Yeah.
it's this whole tightness that actually sinks you into further depression or further
Di-
unbelievable, right?
dis-ease,
Well,
dis-ease.
that's it. That's exactly it. And you're creating this space which allows people to share their stories. And I just went to this incredible lecture about stories and how stories can change. By speaking your story, you
Ah,
can change your story. And in comes the
absolutely.
freedom, right? And you may remember something when you're 4 years old, and this is how you might say it as a 4 year old. And then when you're 12, you may remember it this way. And then when you're
Ah,
30, you may remember it this way. And it allows,
yes,
especially where there's pain, and you can allow things to shift and change as
yes,
we are growing all the time. I feel like that really also was like, you know what? We do need to know the stories behind
we do.
each one of us has not just one story. We have
Oh
multiple,
gosh.
right?
Yeah,
We're chapters. There's chapter
we're
upon chapter
chapters.
upon volume upon
Mm-hmm.
volume. And I love when you said when we share this in community, it actually brings us closer,
It
right? Because you go,
does.
your heart kind of melts each time when you're like, wow, I didn't know that happened to her. I didn't know she
Right.
went through that. Or even the amazing, like beautiful shares, it starts something flowing through you in a way that
Mhm.
brings you and helps you rise to the next level. And it is
Absolutely.
empowering and it is enlightening. And then things just start co-creating in a
Yeah,
beautiful way. And so by
it's so true.
creating this space for all of us to share our stories, to
Yeah.
listen
Hmm.
to stories, really starts that ripple effect out. And so, I
It's
mean, it's beautiful. I love your platform.
Thank you. I don't know if you remember, it was like 2 Februarys ago that you came to a meeting at my center where I stood up in front of my community and I shared some pretty intense stuff, and people were like, ugh, right?
I
Because
remember.
I was leading up to publishing this book, and the whole kind of aha experience for me was this idea of releasing and liberating myself from these narratives, the shame, the limiting
Mhm.
beliefs of things that had happened to me in my life, and then releasing it out and having that. But it was more about, I thought it was all about my own healing, but the experience that was so transformative was understanding how it helped the listeners, how it helped people in that room, and then the people who read the book to be like, I am not alone. This happened to someone else. Look, she got through it, right? And she's able to talk about it. And I mean, it was the response that I got that made me realize that this was a very important movement and platform that I was just pulled to, to continue, because I think there's so much power in helping people find the courage to come out from hiding. Really. We're always invited to be who we are, but we hide because we think it's safer to not share because we are fearful of how we will be perceived or misunderstood or that we won't belong, right? And
Right.
so we're showing people through this movement that it's just the opposite, right? When you can come out and share, look, this happened to me, and then I learned this, and then I evolved to this, and now I'm creating this. It's just part of our journey as human beings, and you're not alone. No matter what you've been through, you're not alone. Somebody else out there has experienced something very similar. And by coming together and sharing these truths with one another, I believe that is going to create powerful change, waves of change and understanding. And so that's why we're doing the work. And I'm really, really so honored that you could come on and share that with us today. Because see what we learn about one another, that people we've known for 10, 15 years. It's
Right.
great. It's
Yeah.
great stuff.
Thank you. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I just want to say I remember that night really clearly,
Yeah.
and it was incredibly impactful. And it was, I'm sure you remember this, how silent
Yeah.
it was while you were speaking, because it
Mhm.
was like we were all waiting for every word, and we all could feel the pain that you were sharing, and then the worry and the anxiety, and then the freedom that
Yeah.
came from sharing this and being in community. I remember thinking how brave you were. Like that
Yeah.
was one of the, I was like, wow, she is incredibly brave to share
Mhm.
this. And then you could, as you said, feel the ripple effect in
Yeah.
all the people who were there, and it hit each one of us differently,
Of
right? Because we
course. Of
come
course.
as our own being in such a different way, but that you did this in such a beautiful, eloquent way.
Mm.
It was like giving the permission slip, because
Thank you.
we don't know
We don't.
really. You gave the
We don't know.
permission slip for all of us to say,
Yeah.
ooh, wow,
Yeah.
I could free myself too. I have the
It's
key in my
amazing.
pocket, right?
It's amazing. And what we learn from that is yes, we're healing ourselves, but then we start to heal each other. And that's where I think this thing has legs. Like, it's really, I mean, let's just keep going. Let's just keep talking and sharing and creating community and a sense of connection because that's all going to help us get to your goal and your dream of world peace. Because we have to find peace within ourselves, and so many of us don't. We live with these unresolved wounds and traumas. Oh, just we just suppress them because we're taught to do that, and then we pass them down generationally. And who wants that, right? So
Right.
share your stories, break free from those patterns of suffering, and then, create a new story, create a new narrative, and live a life full of joy and purpose and meaning. So that's what we're doing.
I love it. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for you having me on today,
Oh,
Jen.
it's just wonderful. What would you say? I know we could I mean, I could talk to you for another hour, but
Easily.
what would you say to somebody who might be listening today who's like, "Oh, I think I would really like to share my story in some way." And again, it doesn't have to be a big platform, it doesn't have to be a stage or a podcast, but maybe they're like, "I need to share this thing that happened to me with someone who's willing to listen." How would you encourage that listener?
I would first say, do it.
Yeah,
Find someone, whether it's someone you know already, a friend, a confidant, someone who you've always wanted to share to, or even someone who shares like one of us. Reach out to one of us. We
sure.
are here to listen, and you can do it and feel the process. Do it in a supported space that's a sacred space so that you know that you can do it and you are listened to, that people don't cut you off and want to tell you their story after you
Right.
take one breath. That sometimes when you're
Mm,
ready, and you really
yeah.
want that person who you're picking or that space that you're picking is important, and make sure you do it.
Yeah.
And do it
Right.
more. Like the first time you do it, that's the first layer, right? And I'm sure you've
Right.
experienced this. And you can say to yourself, is there more? And you can start in journaling if you want to start
I was
there.
just going to say that. Yeah.
Yep,
Even for
right. And then,
yourself, just to
right.
write it out. That's how I started. Oh, excuse me. My earpiece is dropping out of my ear because I can't stop talking with my hands. But that's what I did. I started writing and then I was like, wow, this feels really good. Yeah. So
Right.
even if it's just for yourself, just to share your story with yourself so you can look at it now in this moment with perspective. Yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
love that.
great. Well, I am so honored to have you here. I love the work that you're doing, obviously. How can people get to in touch with you to learn more about this beautiful work, the Zenathon, the project, and all of the other things that you're doing for the world?
Thank you for asking. It's been an honor being here. Zenathon, we have a website. It's Zenathon, Zenathon.org. And then I post every day on Instagram and Facebook. I give it, it's called Turtling Tidbits, just a little bit of peace, like a three
Yeah,
minutes peace offering for people to
beautiful.
incorporate into their life. And I'm always an email away as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. And just for our listeners, the SheBreathes Soul Stories book is just the beginning. The podcast is an extension of that. If you're interested in sharing your story, being a part of a new collection, if you'd like to be on the show, just reach out to me, Jen Goldbrand. And we look forward to hearing all of the stories that are yet to be told. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. And thank you, Sani.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. See you all soon. Thank you.